She really thought I'd never catch on. Every Wednesday night, she'd kiss me goodbye and say she was off to yoga class. But let's be honest, yoga doesn't usually wrap up with whiskey shots and strangers' hands sitting low on your waist. So I watched. Waited. While she twirled beneath the hazy bar lights like nothing was wrong, I quietly built my exit one piece at a time. Exactly 30 days later, she walked into her house and found nothing. Just silence, a single gift sitting on the table, and a note stuck to the wall like a ghost of what we used to be. That day marked the beginning of my disappearance from her life. But before I vanished, I made sure she felt every spark of the fire she lit under me. This isn't just about leaving, it's about taking back control. Of my sanity. Of my story. But to understand why it came to this, you've got to hear how it all started. Name's Garrett. Full name's Garrett Stone, but only my mom ever used that, and only when I screwed up. To everyone else, I'm just Garrett. And I'm good with that. I've been welding since I was 19. Started small, fence panels and trailer hitches. Worked my way up to the big stuff, bridges, water towers, skyscrapers. Real steel. Real stakes. Most folks don't get it. Welding ain't flashy. You come home smelling like scorched metal, your arms dotted with tiny burns from flying sparks. My hands are so rough now, I barely flinch when I burn myself. Still, I love what I do. There's something honest about it. You start your day staring at raw steel, and by sundown, you've shaped something strong. Something that lasts. I met Alyssa at the county fair when we were both 22. She was laughing with her girlfriends, cotton candy in one hand and some stuffed bear in the other. Her laugh? Man, it stopped me cold. It was the kind that makes everything else go quiet for a second. She was smart, sharper than anyone I'd ever met. You could feel her ambition before she even spoke. Said she was gonna be a lawyer, and I didn't doubt her for a second. Not because she bragged, Alyssa never had to. She just knew, like the future had already sent her a confirmation letter and the rest of the world was playing catch-up. We started dating not long after that night. She wasn't like anyone I'd known. She made me want to do better. Be better. When she got accepted into a law school out of state, I told her to go. Told her I'd figure the rest out. That night, she cried on the tailgate of my old truck. Said she didn't think long distance would work. I looked her straight in the eye and told her it would because we weren't like everybody else. And we proved it. We pushed through the distance, the stress, the birthdays we missed. 3 years into law school, we got married at the little Baptist church near where I grew up. The wedding wasn't fancy folding chairs, a potluck reception, and her dress bought off the clearance rack. But when she smiled walking down that aisle, it felt like I was marrying royalty. That was the moment I thought, this is it. This is my forever. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. I picked up every shift I could. Took weekend welding jobs, side construction gigs, anything that paid a dime. I didn't just want to help her, I wanted to carry her across the finish line. Her tuition, rent, books, meal plans, I covered it all. She tried to tell me once she felt bad about how much I was sending her. I told her guilt had no place in chasing dreams. My days stretched longer than ever. I'd wake up before the sun, drink bitter black coffee, and head out with my tools slung over one shoulder and yesterday's grease still on my jeans. Summer heat, winter winds, I worked through it all. And whenever I felt like quitting, I pictured her in that cap and gown, walking across the stage, her eyes finding mine in the crowd. That image kept me going. On weekends, I'd drive 5 hours just to see her if she had the time. I'd crash at a cheap motel, bring her groceries, fix whatever was broken in her apartment. We'd sit at little diners talking about her classes, civil procedure, contracts, torts. Half the time I didn't know what she was saying, but the way she lit up when she talked about it, that was enough for me. I felt proud. Like I was part of building something bigger than myself. I gave her everything. Every dollar I could spare went straight to Alyssa. I drove an old Silverado with no air conditioning while she had a dependable silver Subaru. I lived on gas station sandwiches so she could buy books thicker than bricks. But none of it felt like a sacrifice. To me, that was love. The real kind. The kind that puts your partner's future above your own comfort. My buddies didn't get it. Said I was busting my back for a girl who barely came around anymore. Told me she was off chasing dreams while I stayed stuck in place. But they didn't know Alyssa like I did. They didn't know us. She'd call late at night sometimes, whispering from her dorm room or the library, just to say she missed me. I'd send her flowers randomly just to remind her I was still in her corner. It was hard, sure. But I figured we were just in the middle of the struggle part, the grind before the reward. We had plans. She'd graduate, land a job at some fancy Langston and Pike, and I'd finally slow down a bit. Maybe start my own welding shop. Custom gates, railing work, stuff I could do from home. We'd get a house, settle down. She wanted a garden and a porch swing. I wanted a dog and a little shed with my name carved on the door. Everything was right there, just waiting. Or so I thought. It felt like we were almost there. She was wrapping up her final year, juggling internships, even landed an offer from some big firm downtown. The way she told me, she sounded thrilled. And I was genuinely happy for her. I figured everything we'd pushed through, the stress, the miles between us, the long hours, and every dollar I scraped together had finally paid off. We'd made it, or so I thought. But here's what I didn't realize at the time: when you're out there grinding every day, breaking your back to help build someone else's dream, you don't always notice how far apart you've drifted. You're so locked in on the future, you don't see the present slowly slipping away right under your nose. Looking back, I think I started losing her the second I made her dreams more important than my own. But at the time, I couldn't see that. All I could see was the finish line, her in that cap and gown, us finally stepping into our life together. Happy. Done with the hard part. I believed I was doing right by her. And maybe I was. But I've come to learn something about love: it's not just about how much you're willing to give. It's also about who you're giving it to. Because not everyone's worthy of that kind of devotion. They say you can feel when something's off even before you fully understand it. That's exactly how things started unraveling with Alyssa. It was small stuff at first. She began missing my calls. I'd ring her up after work like I always did, just to hear her voice, check in. Used to be she'd answer with a smile in her tone. Then one day it was voicemail. The next, a quick text. Busy. Talk later. In a meeting. I brushed it off. Figured work was getting hectic. Big firm, tight deadlines, I understood. But then things changed inside the house. She started coming home later than usual. Blamed it on traffic or staying late to finish a case brief. But when she came through the door, she didn't smell like long hours at a law office. She smelled like liquor and heavy perfume, with a smoky edge that didn't belong anywhere near a conference room. And I'm no fool. That kind of scent? It sticks to you. You don't pick it up filing court documents. Still, I kept quiet. Just listened. Watched. Even the way she smiled at her phone changed. It used to be something silly I sent, a meme, a picture of the neighbor's dog chasing its tail. Now her smile was softer. Secretive. Like whatever lit up her screen wasn't meant for me. I'd ask, what's so funny? She'd glance up and say, just something from the group chat, then flip her phone face down on the table. And right then I knew something was off. But I'm not one to blow up. Never have been. I don't throw dishes or raise my voice. My old man taught me better. He used to say, if something smells wrong, sit still long enough and you'll find the rot. So I did just that. Waited. One Sunday, while Alyssa was out doing brunch with her girlfriends, I slid under her car with a shop rag and a socket wrench, pretending to check the alignment. Installed a GPS tracker, no bigger than a lighter, right by the rear bumper. Took me maybe 5 minutes. Tucked the wire into the brake light harness. Couldn't see a thing unless you knew exactly where to look. That little black box didn't lie. At first, everything seemed normal. She drove where she said she'd go: Langston and Pike, the Glowcore Fitness, the grocery store up on Willow Creek. I started to wonder if maybe I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was the problem. Then week 2 rolled around and a new address showed up. A bar, the Hollow Oak. Wednesday nights. Then Monday. Then Sunday. Same place, same time frame, about 2 hours each visit. Give or take. I looked the place up. Low lighting, live music, overpriced cocktails. Not her scene. Or at least, not the Alyssa I thought I knew. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Just kept notes. Wednesday, 7:25 p.m. to 9:20. Sunday, 6:30 to 8:50 sharp. Her car, always in the same lot. I started keeping a full log. Dates, times, how long she stayed. I mapped the whole pattern, watching it repeat like clockwork. I didn't breathe a word of it. Didn't let her see even a flicker of suspicion in my eyes. I just stayed quiet. Patient. Staring at that blinking dot on my screen like it was drawing a map straight to the truth I didn't want to face. So I pulled back a little. Claimed I had extra welding jobs out of town. Gave myself some distance. Space to think. To figure out what came next. One night, I asked Alyssa how her week had been, just playing it casual, like nothing was wrong. She smiled and told me work was hectic but good. Said she might be staying late tomorrow too, depending on how things played out with the case she was working on. I nodded like I believed her. Like I hadn't already watched her leave the office, drive across town, and spend 2 hours inside that bar with someone who sure as hell wasn't me. She still leaned in to kiss my cheek as she left the room. Still said she loved me. And in that moment, I started to wonder if she even knew what love meant anymore. But when she said, I love you now, it didn't land the way it used to. The words felt hollow, like someone else had borrowed her voice. So I started paying attention. Not to the big stuff, but to the little cracks in the routine. The extra time spent in front of the mirror before she left the house. How she suddenly started charging her phone in the bathroom instead of next to the bed. The lock screen changing every couple of days like clockwork. The soft tapping of her fingers texting long past midnight, thinking I was already asleep. And that smile. That damn smile. It didn't belong to me anymore. Still, I held my tongue. I didn't need a confession, I already knew what I was seeing. I knew exactly where this was headed. But I also knew something else. If I was gonna respond, it wouldn't be with shouting or accusations. It'd be quiet. Calculated. Smart. I wasn't trying to bust her red-handed. I wasn't looking for drama. I was planning an exit. So I waited. Kept watching. Let her dig her own hole, one careless move at a time. And I knew sooner or later I'd have to see it for myself. That moment came on a Monday night. I'd just gotten home from a long day under the hood, still reeking of burnt steel and machine grease. I was in the garage, wiping down tools, when my phone lit up on the bench. The tracker pinged just like it had every other weeknight for the past month. Alyssa's car had left the parking garage at her office, and like clockwork, it veered off toward that same bar off Main. No hesitation. I grabbed my keys and a pair of old binoculars from my hunting pack. I didn't need to get close, just needed a clear view. I already knew the layout of the place, knew exactly where to park and stay unseen. I found a spot across the street, engine off, headlights dead. Sat in the cab of my truck, hidden in the dark, waiting. And there she was. Alyssa sat at a small table near the front window, glowing under those faux Edison bulbs every trendy bar loves. Her hair was down. Her dress clung tighter than anything she ever wore when we went out. And that smile on her face? It was wide. Loud. Alive. The kind of smile I hadn't seen aimed at me in a long, long time. Then I saw him. Noah. She'd brought him up months ago, just in passing. Said he was one of the new junior partners transferred in from Portland. Called him kind of arrogant, laughed about how he talked too much but knew his stuff. Back then, it sounded harmless. Just another name in the office. But now, watching him lean across the table with that polished grin and slicked back hair, this didn't look like business talk. This looked familiar. Too familiar. And by the way Alyssa touched his arm and threw her head back laughing, I could tell this wasn't their first time playing footsie over cocktails. I didn't need to hear the words. Their bodies told the whole story. Her leaning forward, him inching closer. Her fingers grazing his wrist. That spark in her eyes. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. Again. I pulled out my phone. Zoomed in. Took a few clear photos. One of her smiling, eyes full of light like I hadn't seen in months. One of her hand resting on his arm. One of him whispering something near her ear. Noah looked like the type who sold charm for a living. Clean shave. Designer watch. Probably spent more on hair gel than I did on work boots. He was the kind of guy who ordered appetizers you couldn't pronounce and wore loafers with no socks. The kind of guy Alyssa used to make fun of back when she was still mine. I didn't feel rage. No sadness either. Just cold. Like I wasn't even inside my own body. Like I was floating above, watching someone else's life fall apart in slow motion. I stayed maybe 15 minutes. Took the proof I needed. Let it burn into my brain a little longer. Then I drove home dead silent the whole way. When Alyssa came in later, she didn't offer much of an explanation. Something about Langston and Pike running late. Then she slipped off to take a shower. I nodded like I bought it. Like I was still the same fool who once worked triple shifts to pay for her tuition and a future she now shared with someone else. Once the house went quiet, I walked into the bedroom and pulled out an old canvas duffel from the back of the closet. Same one I used back when I was traveling job to job, living out of motels and sleeping in my truck. I set it down on the floor and slowly unzipped it. I didn't pack much. Just the essentials. A few pairs of clothes. Flashlight. Gloves. Toiletries. The phone with the tracker app and the photos. Copied everything onto a flash drive just in case. Redundancy matters when you're planning to vanish. Then I moved on to the paper trail. Quiet. Methodical. Bank statements, and that was just the beginning. Property records. Receipts from our joint account. Every time I passed one of our wedding pictures on the wall, I didn't stop to look. I just kept moving slow and steady, like I was packing up a house that didn't belong to me anymore. I didn't touch any of her things. Didn't leave a mess. Just peeled my life away from hers, one drawer at a time. By the time she stepped out of the shower, I was already back in the garage, wiping down a wrench I didn't even need. Just something to keep my hands busy. She walked past me wrapped in a towel, humming some tune, no idea her whole world was already cracking beneath her feet. That night, we lay in the same bed, but it might as well have been two different planets. She rolled over and faced the wall. I stared at the ceiling like it might offer answers. I'd seen all I needed to see. More than enough. But I wasn't done, not yet. I wasn't going to move until every last piece was in place. After that night at the bar, something inside me went still. Not in a broken way. More like when a storm finally blows out and leaves nothing but silence behind. The rage was gone. So was the heartbreak. What remained was a plan, simple, focused, clear. Alyssa didn't have a clue. If anything, I think she thought I was drifting away because of work. I let her believe that. It made things easier. I told her I'd picked up extra shifts. Said my contractor buddy upstate needed help on a big job. That I might miss dinner a few nights here and there. She didn't question it. Just nodded and told me to drive safe. That was the first domino. Next stop, the Bank Cedar Trust Union. The same one we'd used since we first got married. The manager, Marcus, knew me well. I told him I needed to open a private account and shift some funds quietly. He raised an eyebrow, but I didn't leave room for questions. Told him it was for business. He nodded and walked me through it. Within a week, I had the new account up and running. I didn't pull money from our joint account all at once, too obvious. I took small amounts. A couple thousand here, a few more there. Labeled each transfer with stuff she wouldn't think twice about: truck repairs, tool orders, supplier invoices. She never checked the statements anyway. I'd always been the one handling the bills. Once I had enough tucked away, I made a 4-hour drive west to a quiet town I'd scoped out a while back. Small, slow-paced, with just enough going on to blend in. There, I opened another account, this time under an old business name I'd registered years ago, back when I thought I might start my own welding shop. Back then, it was a dream. Now, it was my exit strategy. From there, I moved on to the house. I called Renee, the real estate agent who helped us buy the place. She was sharp and, more importantly, knew how to keep things discreet. I told her I wanted to sell fast, quiet. No lawn signs, no online listings, no paper trail. She asked if Alyssa was in the loop. I told her not yet. She didn't push. Just got to work. Within 2 weeks, she had a buyer, young couple from Phoenix, all cash, no inspection delays. We could close in under a month. I signed the paperwork on my end and told Renee to list the seller as my LLC. Alyssa's name had never been on the deed. She never noticed that either. Back home, I kept playing the part. Said the right things, stayed polite, quiet. Focused on work. When Alyssa asked how things were going, I'd tell her just enough to keep the questions away. She'd smile, say she was proud of me. I'd nod like those words still carried weight. We sat at the same dinner table. Shared the same couch. But I was already gone. I moved through that house like a shadow. While she watched her crime shows, I was updating contacts, changing my mailing address to a P.O. box in that small western town, calling tool suppliers, union reps, and a few old road buddies. Told them I was relocating. Asked them to keep it between us. Nobody pried. Then came the legal part. I'd already met with a Calumet West. Calm guy. Spoke slow, real measured, like a preacher who didn't waste words. We met twice in a quiet office above a bakery. I brought everything: documents, screenshots, notes, even the GPS tracker data. He flipped through the files, nodded now and then, and finally asked one question. You want this clean or messy? I told him clean. Fast. Quiet. He didn't need anything else. Next day, I went to a notary and signed the first round of documents. The divorce wasn't official yet, couldn't be without serving her first, but the wheels were turning. Callum said we'd file the moment I was ready. Most nights after that, I sat alone in the garage, the door cracked just enough to hear the wind. That quiet hum was the only thing that kept me grounded. I packed slowly. Never anything obvious, no empty shelves, no missing boxes. Just a few things here and there. Tools, personal items, gear she'd never noticed were gone. I didn't touch the sentimental stuff. Truth was, none of it felt like it belonged to me anymore. A few nights before the sale went through, I found myself alone in the living room. Alyssa had gone to one of her work events, though by now I knew exactly where she really was. I stood there, staring at the photos on the wall. Our wedding. That one camping trip. Her graduation day. And for the first time in a long time, I let myself feel something. But it wasn't sadness. What I felt in that moment wasn't sadness. It was something closer to acceptance. People change. Goals shift. And sometimes, no matter how much you pour into someone, time, love, every last ounce of effort, they still drift away. Not physically. Not at first. But But piece by piece, their heart pulls back until one day they're already halfway gone and you're just now noticing. That's what Alyssa had done. She left me slowly and quietly and forgot to tell me she was leaving. And I was done waiting for her to come back. By the end of that 4th week, every piece was in place. The house was set to close. The accounts had been moved. The documents were signed. The truck was serviced and fully loaded. I'd already locked in a furnished rental out west. Lease signed under my business name. Even set up a brand new phone number tied to a line she'd never know about. Only thing left was the when. So I stuck to routine. Took out the trash. Paid the bills. Mowed the yard like I always did. Smiled when she talked, said goodnight like nothing was changing. Let her believe I was just tired. Just overworked. Just running on fumes. And every night when she turned out the light and rolled to face the wall, I stayed wide awake, staring into the dark, waiting for morning. Because the next time she asked if I was okay, I'd be long gone. Too far away to answer. It was a Wednesday when the sale finalized. The closing email came through at exactly 9:47 a.m. from Renee with the title company CC'd, neat, professional like any ordinary real estate transaction. Except this one meant I didn't live there anymore. Not legally. Not emotionally. Not in any way that counted. Alyssa had no idea. She was at work, probably sitting in a conference room with a paper cup of coffee, surrounded by coworkers who had no clue her world was about to tilt. Noah might have been there, too. Probably was. His car had been parked near hers every week, always in the same row, like he belonged there now. Like he belonged with her. I was ready. I'd been ready for days. Truck was fully packed, duffel bag in the cab, tool chest tied down, bed tarp snapped tight. In the glove box, I had a flash drive labeled with her name. It held everything she'd need to understand what happened. Financial logs, account transfers, call records, and the photos. The ones I took from the truck that night outside the bar. Alyssa's hand on Noah's arm. Her face lit up with laughter. No ring in sight. But I didn't just leave those memories on a flash drive. No, these needed to be seen. I had them printed. Glossy finish. Crystal clear. No blur, no excuses. I slipped them into the divorce paperwork like chapters in a book. One between the petition and the affidavit. Another just before the asset breakdown. And the last photo, her and Noah, heads close, backlit by that warm bar window right at the end. The packet itself was thick. Callum, my lawyer, made sure of that. Every T crossed. Every line airtight. My name was on every deed. The accounts were secure. The house? Sold under my LLC, gone to a young couple from Georgia. Alyssa had exactly 30 days to vacate. No wiggle room. No warnings. No do-overs. She wouldn't see it coming. And truthfully, the place hadn't felt like home for a long time. The siding I repainted 3 summers ago still held up. The porch swing I hung was still crooked, never did fix that. Her flower beds were wild now, half dead, half overgrown. The lawn had a sun-scorched patch by the oak tree where the sprinkler missed. I used to care. I used to fix that kind of stuff. Not anymore. I walked up to the door, manila envelope in hand. Taped it right to the front. Inside were 3 things. First, the eviction notice. Signed, notarized, with her full name printed in bold at the top. She had 30 days to leave. No negotiation. Second, a full copy of the divorce filing. Every asset listed. Every account detailed. Case number front and center, Callum's business card clipped to the front. And third, the note. Folded in half. Handwritten in pen on yellow-lined paper from the notepad I kept in the garage. Nothing dramatic. Nothing long. I stood there a moment longer. Not because I was unsure. Just to remember the moment. Most endings in life bleed into everything else. They're messy. Blurry. You never know when they've really happened. But not this one. This was sharp. Final. The end of a book. And the beginning of whatever came next. I wanted to remember how the air felt. The weight of the sun on my shoulders. The sound of a single bird calling from the trees, something small and alive that didn't care at all about the chaos we humans create. Then I turned and walked back to the truck. No rush. No glance over my shoulder. As I rolled down the block, I saw her car coming from the other direction, headed home, completely unaware. Timing's a funny thing. She didn't see me. I tinted the windows last summer and I kept my head low. But I saw her. Sunglasses on. Coffee in one hand. Phone in the other. Probably mid-text. Probably smiling. I didn't feel a thing. No pride swelling in my chest. No final jolt of rage. Just this strange, quiet calm, like everything inside me had finally gone still. She'd find the envelope soon enough. Step through the front door, spot it right away, and probably open it right there. At first, she'd be confused, maybe even let out a soft laugh, thinking it was some kind of mix-up. But once she flipped through those papers and saw the photos, the ones where her face lit up around Noah, the way he looked at her like she was his whole damn world, that's when it would hit her. She'd realize I knew it all, and that I wasn't there anymore. Not hiding out, not falling apart, just finished. I didn't leave her anything else. No goodbye message. No last words in an email. No spare key hidden under the mat. No keepsake to remember me by. She didn't build any part of who I was. All I left was the truth. That note. And the sound of the door clicking shut behind me, final, solid. Like a chapter closing for good. I'm not sure what time Alyssa got home that day, but I know it wasn't long after I left. Somewhere between noon and 2, she tried calling me. She dialed my old number, the one from our joint phone plan, but by then that line was already cut. Probably got some cold, robotic voice telling her the number didn't exist anymore. Maybe she tried again. Maybe she sent a text. Maybe even wrote an email. But none of it mattered. By the time she stepped inside and spotted that envelope slapped right in the center of the table, I was already long gone. The engine was humming beneath me, GPS locked on west, and the sun shrinking behind me in the mirror. And that was only the beginning. That old truck of mine had never driven smoother. I didn't look in the rearview once. Didn't need to hear her voice or see her expression to know exactly how she must have looked. First came the confusion. Then the disbelief. And finally that gut punch of panic when you suddenly realize you've been walking on a frozen lake and it's already cracking beneath you. She probably ripped the envelope open right there on the front step. Flipped through the documents in a rush. Her name printed line after line, eviction notice, divorce petition, 30 days to get out. Tucked in the middle? The photos. Nothing scandalous. Nothing obscene. Just her and Noah. Shoulder to shoulder, leaning in close, laughing like it had been their routine for months. No ring on her finger. Noah's face smug as hell, like he already thought the game was his. I could picture her wandering through the house after that, half in shock, like a bad dream she couldn't shake off. Maybe she called out my name without thinking, expecting me to step out of the garage or the kitchen, grinning like it was some kind of twisted prank. But I wasn't there. And none of it was a joke. She probably checked the fridge and found it bare. Looked in the dresser, half empty. Opened the bathroom cabinet only to see her toothbrush standing there alone. Then maybe the closet. Heart racing, breath short. No shirts of mine. No boots by the door. No truck in the driveway. I was gone. And she had no clue where I went. No way to reach me. Then, like a dam breaking, all the little things she hadn't noticed came rushing in at once. Her law degree still hung in her office, but now there was a shadow under it. A reminder of the student loans I used to help carry. Every month she'd flash a quick smile and say, "Thanks for covering that one, babe," like she was doing me a favor. Yeah? That whole burden was hers. No more help. No safety net. The house? Sold. Every last bit, lock, stock, and deed. She couldn't stop it. Couldn't reverse it. Her name was never on the paperwork to begin with. Something she never questioned because in her mind we were solid. She once told me, "What's mine is yours." Funny thing is she never stopped to ask what was actually mine. Our bank accounts? Cleared out. I pulled every dollar before the divorce hit the system. No tricks. No shady moves. Just smart, clean, and fully by the book. Every transaction recorded. Every transfer logged. Her access? Gone the second the papers were filed. Sure, she could still log in. But she'd be staring at zeros. The car under her name? Still hers. I didn't touch it. The one under mine? Drove it straight out of her life. Utilities were set to shut off at the end of the month. Internet too. The lawn care she forgot I paid for? Cancelled. The insurance she never glanced at? All mine. Also moved. Every single tie that bound me to that house, to that life, to her, was cut, one thread at a time. My name? Scrubbed clean from her world. I even redirected my mail 2 weeks before I left. Changed addresses with the DMV, the bank Cedar Trust Union, the credit cards. Closed or shared memberships. Got a new license. A new P.O. box. If she tried to send anything, it'd bounce back. If she tried to find me, she'd hit wall after wall. For a guy who'd lived his entire life in the same town, I vanished better than most. She had exactly 28 days to move out. Not a day more. That final Sunday marked her deadline. The new owners were showing up first thing Sunday morning. Whatever she didn't pack would be boxed and shipped to her billing address by Langston and Pike I hired. After that, she'd be starting over. Alone. Just like I had. Only difference was I earned my fresh start. I worked for it. Spent years burning my hands on steel beams, putting in long hours while she sat in air-conditioned courtrooms sipping lattes. I saved every spare dime. Missed holidays. Sacrificed time. And when it was her turn to fight for us, to stay loyal, to speak up when things got hard, she picked Noah. She chose secret drinks at some bar I'd never heard of. Chose laughter that never echoed in our home. Started writing a whole new story and never even told me her chapter was over. And that's fine. But she doesn't get to keep the book. I don't know what she told her friends. Maybe she twisted it. Maybe she cried through it. Maybe she said I just left without a word. Blamed stress. Blamed distance. Played the victim. That's between her and whatever audience still buys it. But when she lays in bed at night after the calls go straight to nowhere and the emails bounce back with errors, she'll know the truth. She'll feel it in the weight of that envelope. Hear it in the sharp, cold silence of those court documents. And see it in every echo that rings through that empty house. And taped to the top of the pile, she'll find the note. Just 10 words written in ink that won't fade. You traded loyalty for attention. Let me know how that works out. S. Some people fall and get rescued. Some don't. But Alyssa? She never saw the drop coming. Some folks get exactly what they deserve. Alyssa had 30 days to figure out how to start fresh, just like I once had to. Once the house closed, I kept going. No dramatic exit. No looking back. Just me, the road, and silence. I holed up in a small rental a few states away. Nothing special, just a quiet place to let the dust settle. But deep down, I knew that kind of place wasn't for me anymore. I wasn't cut out for sleepy towns and dead-end streets. I wanted space. Sunday energy. I wanted the ocean, not as a vacation, but as a neighbor. Warm breeze all year, no snow to shovel, no rusted-out trucks, no tight-lipped neighbors whispering behind fences. Just air, light, and salt water. For days after I left, I crossed into California. Slept in my truck both nights, parked near rest stops, windows cracked just enough to let the breeze in and the world out. There was no rush. Nobody waiting on me. And for the first time in years, that felt like freedom, not loneliness. I rolled into San Diego just as the sun was cracking over the water. Windows down. Ocean air pouring in. Pulled into a diner near the marina and had the best black coffee and eggs I'd had in a long time. Maybe it was the food, or maybe it was just the peace. Maybe it was finally living my life, not someone else's. I rented a small apartment off a quiet street. It had a tiny balcony that overlooked the bay, tiled floors, an old fridge, and a ceiling fan that rattled like a loose bolt in a pickup. But it was mine. No shared bills. No forced smiles over dinner. No conversations that ended in silence. That first week, all I did was breathe. I didn't check email. I didn't open the tracker app again, I deleted it. I'd watched that blinking dot long enough. Got a new phone. New number. No missed calls. No voicemails asking where I went. And that blank slate? I liked it. Then I got back to work. Brought my tools, the good ones. My rig. My gear. And the knowledge I'd built up over years on job sites most folks wouldn't survive. Welding's more than melting steel. It's about knowing what holds, what bends, and what gives under pressure. It's reading a blueprint like it's telling you a secret. San Diego's a goldmine for that kind of work. Fancy restaurants trying to outshine each other with floating staircases. $1-million homes with balconies that seem to hover in midair. I started at the bottom. Visited job sites. Shook hands. Showed what I could do. Didn't flash a resume. Let my welds do the talking. One guy hired me to build a curved stainless railing for a rooftop bar. 3 days later, it gleamed like a mirror. He asked how long I'd been in town. I said, "Just got here." He smiled and said, "Looks like you belong." That one job opened doors. Word got around fast when your welds don't crack and your numbers don't lie. A few months later, I had regular gigs, people asking for me by name. I made it official. Filed the papers. Registered the business. Iron Root Weld Works. Got my license. Grew the team, just me and 2 guys I trusted. I taught them the same way my old man taught me, and I took pride in every piece we turned out. We built custom gates, sleek architectural frames, art installations, balconies for high-end waterfront homes. And the money came in faster than any road job ever paid. Even better, I didn't have to leave town to earn it. For months after I left, the divorce was finalized. Just like the house sale, clean, quiet, no fireworks. She signed. I signed. That chapter was closed. I bought a second-hand boat, Nothing huge. A 26-footer with a rebuilt outboard. Painted her navy blue and named her second wind. On weekends, I'd drift under the sun, rod in one hand, music playing low, cooler within reach. First time since I was a kid that I got a real tan. Dropped 30 pounds without trying. Swapped fast food for grilled fish and mango slices. I started sleeping better. No more staring at ceilings or turning over old regrets in my head. Just good rest. Like even my bones knew I'd finally found the right place. I wasn't looking for anyone. I wasn't chasing anything. But sometimes the best things show up when you stop running after the ones that were never meant for you. Her name was Sienna. Met her at a marine supply shop when I was buying stainless bolts. She was behind the counter, helping some guy return a busted water pump. Tan skin, sharp cheekbones, hair pulled back in a ponytail like she was ready to scale a rooftop or fix an engine without blinking. We talked. We laughed. She noticed the calluses on my hands and asked what I did. I told her they came from holding things together longer than I should have. She smiled and said, "That sounds like a story." Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into sunsets at the marina. She didn't ask about my past. I didn't offer it. Not right away. Because sometimes the beginning of something good doesn't need to carry the weight of everything that came before. We talked about the little things, boats, families, the kind of food we missed from childhood. She told me Sundays were for grilling. I told her I liked quiet dinners after long days. No chatter, just peace and a full plate. Turned out we were both worn thin by noise. Sienna worked part-time as a model, local stuff, swimwear, catalogs. But she didn't lead with that. Didn't care about status or showing off. She just loved the outdoors, the ocean, and honest people who weren't afraid to get their hands dirty. And when she smiled at me, it didn't feel like she wanted anything in return. Not forgiveness, not attention, just truth. So I gave her that. We didn't rush. I wasn't looking to speed into anything. But there was something healing about sitting across from someone without wondering what they were hiding. Felt like breathing again. One evening, we sat on the edge of a dock and watched the sun melt into the horizon. The water was still, and the air smelled like salt and fresh starts. She looked over and said, "You look lighter." And I told her the truth. That's 'cause I let go of everything I wasn't meant to carry anymore. She didn't ask for details. Didn't need to. It was a Monday afternoon, hot and clear. The kind of sun that turns everything gold and makes the water shimmer like it's showing off. I was down at the marina hosing the salt off second wind. Light breeze, seagulls calling overhead, the scent of ocean, sunscreen, and fuel all mixing in the air. No plans, just peace. That rare kind of stillness you only get after you've earned it. I wasn't thinking about the past. Didn't need to. And that's when I saw her. She was walking down the dock in flats and a light summer dress. Looked casual, but her eyes gave her away, rimmed red like she'd cried on the way or hadn't slept much the night before. Hair tied back, sunglasses dangling in one hand. Her posture still proud, but her steps weren't as certain. Alyssa. Hadn't seen her in exactly a year. To the day. I set the hose down and stood up straight, hand resting on the rail. Didn't move toward her. Didn't say a word. She'd come all that way, let her start the conversation. She stopped a few feet from me. Just looked. "You really disappeared," she said, voice softer than I remembered, like life had worn something down in her. I shrugged. "I didn't disappear," I said. "I just stopped wasting my time." That hit her. I saw it. Like a gust of wind had knocked her sideways. She gave this half-smile, one of those sad ones people wear when they're thinking about what could have been. "We had something special," she said. I looked her in the eyes. Not angry. Not bitter. Just steady. "No," I said. "I was something special. You just didn't see it." She didn't push back. Didn't deny it. Just dropped her eyes to the dock, then back up again, like maybe she'd explain, maybe try to soften it. But she didn't. She just stood there in the place we once shared, like she was finally seeing the truth through clear glass for the first time. Behind me, I heard soft footsteps. "Sienna." She strolled up with that effortless confidence, sun-kissed and calm, her hair braided back, a canvas tote slung over one shoulder. Inside were cold drinks and a book, our usual. She smiled when she saw me, that same honest smile she always gave. The kind that doesn't ask for anything in return. When she reached me, I wrapped my arm around her waist. She leaned in, natural, no hesitation. Alyssa looked at her, then at me. And the smile she wore faded, not out of jealousy, just recognition. Like watching someone cross a finish line you quit running for. She's beautiful, Alyssa said quietly. She's real, I replied. It wasn't meant to cut deep. Just the plain truth. One of those truths you don't dress up when there's nothing left to protect. The three of us stood there for a moment, wrapped in the sound of waves slapping against wood and lines knocking against the masts. Then Sienna touched my arm gently. Want me to head to the boat? She asked. I nodded. Give me a minute. She squeezed my hand and stepped onto second wind, dropping her tote and heading toward the bow. Still close. Still present. But giving us space. Alyssa turned back to me. I didn't expect to find you, she said. Took longer than I thought. You shouldn't have looked, I answered. She drew in a slow, shaky breath. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. No need, I said. You already said it loud and clear the day you chose someone else. She nodded. No tears. No pleading. Just a woman standing in front of a man she used to know, finally realizing she no longer had a grip on him. You look good, she said. Happy? She asked. I am, I said without hesitation. She glanced out over the water, then back at me. Her voice was softer now, edged with something like regret. I didn't think it would end like this. Neither did I said. But I'm glad it did. That was all that needed to be said. No big speech. No dramatic goodbye. She already knew it was over. Had known for a long time. Maybe she just needed to stand in front of it to see it with her own eyes, feel how far out of reach I really was. I gave her a small nod. Not cold. Not cruel. Just a quiet goodbye. She blinked once. Then again. And then she turned, walking slowly back down the dock the way she came. I didn't watch her go. I stepped onto second wind, dropped down beside Sienna, popped open a cold bottle of sweet tea, and leaned back with the sun warming my face. Alyssa? She got what she thought she wanted. And me? I got something better. I got free. What do you think? Was Stan right to walk away without a dramatic confrontation? Or do you think he owed Alyssa one last conversation before cutting ties for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear what you think. And if this story hit home, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's more where this came from.